Good day to all. UN 75 and MyBeti presents Talks with Women of Substance, and we have with us in the New York University Stern School of Business and an innovation expert, an achiever in her own right. Let's understand what it means to her to be a woman. How happy are you with it?
How happy am I with being a woman? Well, I've never been a man. So it's hard to compare. I would say one of the things I really enjoyed about being a woman is, and I don't know if this is just being a woman or if this is my personal relationship with my children, but like the sort of deep cellular connection I have with my kids, like it's really a very intense and emotional, biological almost bond. And it's been incredibly rewarding, more rewarding than I even imagined that it would be. I would say one of the hard things about being a woman is that even today, we still have different expectations of what men and women can do and should be. And even if you don't want to have those gendered expectations, it's like they're conditioned in because of the way you were raised. So we expect the CEO to be a man, and we expect the entrepreneur and the inventor to be a man. And when someone says somebody invented some cool new technology out of Silicon Valley, like some young man pops into your head. And that's a shame, because I think that puts women at a disadvantage because they're not given the benefit of the doubt. They're not being considered for roles or funding that they should be considered for. And the thing is, I don't think it's enough to say, I want to think differently or I want others to think differently. I really, really want to think differently. And yet even I find that sort of unconscious bias is just in me somewhere from growing up in America, I guess. So I think it's going to take training. I think we're going to have to be trained out of that or something. I don't know. Maybe you have a take on what we can do about it.
So are you of the opinion that this stereotyping starts in schools and homes early in the years of children?
Very, very early. Absolutely. From the time they're little kids, and and you're buying your little boys like trucks and fighter toys, and you're buying your little girls dolls and mermaid costumes. And even when you consciously try to do otherwise, you're trying to push a rock uphill because you've got this whole cultural history. And then you also have some people who still very deeply believe in the division of labor, saying that, in the culture I grew up in the United States, and I grew up mostly in Colorado, and my mother was very independent, and we didn't have a lot of gender role division in my household per se, but it's still always there in school. And even if you don't intend for it to be there, it's there because you're used to girls playing with dolls, and you're used to women being conveyed as nurturing. You see movies about housewives, you see men being strong and fearless and being respected even when they're difficult. You don't see very many women being respected when they're difficult. And, I write a little bit about that in my book, because I think that part of being a serial breakthrough innovator, for example, someone like Elon Musk or Albert Einstein or Steve Jobs, all of these guys were actually difficult people, right? They were obstinate and, believe it, and they were ultimately respected and achieved things. You have to be willing to fight and be a little obstinate if you're going to introduce something new to the world, because in general, people kind of resist new to the world. The more breakthrough it is, the more they're going to resist it. So the more you have to fight for it, right? You're fighting for something that other people don't understand or maybe don't think that they like. And if you can't fight for it, it's not going to come into the world. Well, if women are taught not to fight, that we're supposed to be nice and gentle and sweet, that puts you at a pretty serious disadvantage to introduce breakthrough innovation, right? Or to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, but is it also right to infer that women, like most of the teachers are women, and mothers, they lead to this stereotyping? They say, don't do this, do this, and all those things.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes from, in fact, maybe most of the disciplining to be sweet and to not break rules or to not fight or to be difficult. I actually think it's passed from woman to woman. I think women are more critical of strong women in the workplace, for example, than men are. I think men aren't particularly threatened by it, but I think women sometimes feel like a woman is breaking ranks or not acting true to her role if she's a more difficult or competitive or obstinate woman. So yeah, women have to learn to support each other, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think it's as much as, I don't think it's enough for us to just say we want to support each other. I think we're going to have to really have some different conditioning.
Okay. So are you saying that the bias of men for men vis-a-vis the bias of women for women is higher?
So I think that men also have this bias that they're expecting their leaders to be men. They're expecting their leaders in the workplace or culturally to be men. But and some of them are actually, I think some of them do find it unsettling if a woman is in a position of power. Like I know that for a woman to become president in the United States, it's been a real struggle because it's everybody thought Hillary Clinton was too hard, right? She was too tough and bristly and that was alienating for people. I think if she had been a man, they might not have even framed it that way. They might not have noticed it the same way. So there is some resistance there. But I think, so that's there. But I think in the workplace, I think in general, men are probably less disrupted by a woman being strong than women are. Right. So when for the other women in the room, when a woman is being assertive with them, it's very confrontational. Whereas for a man in the room, when a woman's being assertive for them, it's probably just surprising. That's been my experience.
Okay. So the final question here is, let's take a deadline of, let's say, 2030. And how do you see the whole scenario of women empowerment, etc., changing by 2030?
Yeah. Well, 2030 isn't that far away, I don't think. So I don't think, when we make predictions for 2030, sometimes we try to think of big, grand things, but I really think we're going to see 2030 is going to be more incremental changes between here and then. But I do think one of the things that is changing, at least in the US, and I can't speak, globally, I do think most women realize now that they should have a job and they shouldn't count on being supported by someone, and so that so that marriage becomes a more equal partnership of providers and caregivers, and that hopefully will lead to a situation where there's more equality, right? And I think we're definitely now, if you ask them what they're going to be when they grow up, very few of them are going to say, I'm going to be a housewife, or I'm going to stay home, and just be a mom. I'm not going to say just be a mom, because being a mom is a huge job, actually, but it doesn't pay well. So you have to find a way to actually secure your own financial future, I think.
Yes, that's right. So they'll be more financially independent is what you're saying by 2030, and more equal in So
I hope so.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for spending time with us, and hope to see you soon again. Thank you, and happy Women's Day.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. It's really fun.